Elections. I mean, we see them everywhere, right? On the news, all over our social media feeds. But what are they, really? At their heart, they're how we the people hold the power. They are the absolute bedrock of any democracy.
But, not all elections are created equal. So what's the difference between a real, genuine democratic election and, well, just political theater? How do we know if it's actually what people want? That's the big question we're going to tackle right at the start.
All right, so before we get into the nitty-gritty, let's lay down the ground rules. You can think of this next part as the gold standard. These are the non-negotiable, essential ingredients for any election that wants to call itself democratic.
Okay, so here's a quick checklist for what makes a democracy healthy. First up, everybody gets a vote, and every single vote counts the same. That's universal suffrage. Second, you need real choice. You can't just have one option. You need multiple parties, multiple candidates, different ideas competing. Third, these things have to happen regularly. Power can't be held forever, right? So you need elections every few years. Fourth, and this is a big one, the person the people actually prefer has to be the one who gets elected. And finally, tying it all together, the whole process has to be free and fair. People need to be able to vote for who they really want without being scared or pressured. You take away even one of these, and honestly, the whole system just starts to fall apart.
Okay, so if you've got real choice, that means you've got something else too, competition. And let's be real, political competition can get messy. It's got its good side for sure, but it's also got a pretty clear downside. Yeah, this competition thing is a real double-edged sword. On one hand, it can create a lot of division, right? Parties pointing fingers, using dirty tricks. It can even scare off good people who just don't want to get involved in all that muck. But here's the other side of the coin, and this is so important. That same competition is what keeps leaders on their toes. To win, they have to actually listen to us. To stay in power, they have to deliver on their promises. So yeah, it's messy, it's totally imperfect, but that accountability, it's baked right into the system.
So where do all these political battles actually happen? Well, they're fought in specific areas we call electoral constituencies. The easiest way to think about it is that the whole country is carved up into a bunch of different districts, and the voters in each one of those districts elect one person to represent them.
And the scale here, it's just mind-boggling. To give you some perspective, for India's main parliamentary elections, the Lok Sabha, the entire country is split into 543 of these constituencies. That's huge. It means a general election isn't just one big race. It's actually 543 separate local races all happening at once. And the results of all of them together decide who's in charge of the whole country.
So with a system that massive, you have to ask, how on earth do you keep it fair? Well, it all comes down to having really clear rules for everyone, voters and candidates alike. And that includes some pretty special rules designed to level the playing field, especially for groups that have been historically shut out.
This is a really interesting solution to a big historical problem. The framers of India's constitution were worried that certain communities, like scheduled castes and tribes, might never get a fair shot at being elected. So they came up with this system of reserved constituencies. In these specific areas, only candidates from those designated communities are allowed to run. It's a way to absolutely guarantee that their voices and perspectives are represented in Parliament.
And what about running for office yourself? Well, the basic checklist is pretty straightforward. You've got to be a citizen, be at least 25, and of course, be a registered voter. But here's where it gets really interesting, the transparency part. If you want to be a candidate, you have to file a legal document, an affidavit, that lays everything out. Any criminal cases against you, what you own, what you owe, and your educational background. And all of that is made public, so we the voters can see it all and make a more informed choice. It's all about putting the cards on the table.
Okay, so we've got the players and we know the rules of the game. Now let's walk through the actual playbook. An election isn't just one day. It's a whole process, a timeline with very specific steps from the get-go all the way to the finish line.
And what an undertaking it is. This whole thing kicks off way before any votes are cast, with the massive job of getting the voter lists ready. After that, it's like a domino effect. Candidates officially file their papers to run, those papers get checked and verified, and then the campaigns kick into high gear. All of this is building up to the two biggest days on the calendar: polling day, when everyone goes out to vote, and then counting day, when we finally find out who won.
Now you can imagine that campaign season gets pretty intense. So how do you stop things from getting completely out of hand? Well, that's the job of something called the Model Code of Conduct. Think of it as the official rulebook for the campaign. It's not technically a law, but it's a set of guidelines that all the political parties have agreed to play by to keep things fair. And these rules are super specific, for good reason.
They're all about preventing anyone from having an unfair advantage. Things like you can't bribe or threaten voters. You can't try to divide people by appealing to their caste or religion. And this is a big one. You can't use government vehicles or officials for your campaign. Even places of worship are off limits for propaganda. It all comes back to that one core idea we started with, making sure the election is genuinely free and fair for everyone.
All right, so with all those rules setting the boundaries, how do parties actually convince people to vote for them? Well, they talk about their policies, they make speeches, and they use one of the most powerful tools in politics, the slogan. A really great slogan can do so much work. It can capture the entire feeling of an election in just 2 or 3 words.
Let's look at a few classic examples. Back in 1971, the Congress Party came up with Garibi Hatao, which means remove poverty. See, this wasn't just some catchy phrase. It was a direct, powerful promise that cut right through all the political noise and connected with the real, everyday economic worries of millions of people. Now jump forward just a few years to 1977, and the whole mood of the country was different. The opposition junta party ran on the slogan, "Save Democracy." This was a direct shot at the government's recent imposition of the state of emergency. It wasn't about economics anymore, it was a powerful rallying cry to bring back basic civil rights.
And slogans don't have to be for the whole country. They can be incredibly local and targeted. Take West Bengal, also in 1977. The Left Front slogan was "Land to the Tiller." This was a super focused promise aimed at a very specific group, the huge number of tenant farmers in the state. It spoke directly to their biggest hope, owning the land they worked on.
And sometimes, it's not about policy at all. It's about identity. In 1983, a new party in Andhra Pradesh, the Telugu Desam Party, used the slogan, "Protect the self-respect of the Telugus." This was a brilliant move. It was a powerful appeal to regional pride, and it basically turned the election into a fight for the state's culture and honor. Which kind of brings us full circle and leaves us with one last thought. These slogans, they clearly live somewhere between a smart political strategy and what people are truly hoping for. But when a few simple words can capture the dreams of millions of people, what is it really? Is it a promise they have to keep? Is it just clever marketing? Or maybe, is it just the first sentence of a brand new chapter for a country? The real answer, as always, is probably a little bit of all three.